Welcome to Historian Diary. Today I will tell you a story about France, but this is not a story about elegance or culture or enlightenment. This is a story about dark magic, about a king's mistress who stripped naked on an altar while babies were sacrificed on her body, about a witch who sold poison to aristocrats and performed satanic rituals in Paris, about love potions made from menstrual blood and placenta. This is the story of Madame de Montespan and Voisin, the affair of the poisons. And it happened in the glittering court of Louis XIV, the Sun King. My hand is trembling as I read these court documents. Police interrogation records from 1679, testimony from 300 witnesses, confessions describing infant sacrifice, black masses, and murder plots against the king himself. Gabriel Nicolas de la Reynie, the Paris police chief, documented everything. And what he found was so scandalous that King Louis XIV ordered most records destroyed. But some survived, and they described naked aristocrats on altars, blood rituals, babies being sacrificed, the king's mistress trying to murder him. Comment below where you're watching from, because what I'm about to tell you is documented history. This happened at Versailles in 1665 to 1682, and it involved the most powerful woman in France. Let me start at the beginning. Françoise Athénaïs de Rochechouart was born October 5, 1640, one of France's oldest noble families, beautiful, intelligent, witty. In 1663, she married the Marquis de Montespan and entered Louis XIV's court. And the moment she saw the king, she wanted him. Not romantically, strategically. Being the king's mistress meant power, wealth, influence. You became the real queen of France. And Louis already had a mistress, Louise de la Vallière. But Montespan decided, I will replace her. In 1665, Montespan went to see Catherine de Montvoisin, known as La Voisine, her fortune teller in Paris. But La Voisine offered more than fortunes. She provided love potions, aphrodisiacs, abortions, and for the desperate black masses, satanic rituals. Magic that required blood sacrifice. Montespan's request was simple. I want the king, La Voisine smiled. I can arrange that, but there's a price. You must participate. Personally, please like this video, because what happened next comes from sworn court testimony. The first Black Mass happened in 1665 at La Voisine's house in Paris. A room was prepared. An altar, actually chairs draped with black cloth, candles lit. Then Montespan entered. She was told to remove all clothing. Completely naked, she lay on the altar, face up. Her naked body became the altar itself. A defrocked priest named Etienne Guibourg entered. He'd been excommunicated. Now he performed satanic rituals for money. Guibourg began reciting Latin prayers, but inverted, backwards prayers to Satan instead of God. He asked Satan to make Louis XIV love Montespan, to make Louise de la Vallière lose favor. Then La Voisine placed a chalice on Montespan's naked stomach, a church chalice used for communion. But this wasn't wine. This was blood. An infant was brought into the room. La Voisine's daughter, Marie Marguerite, later testified under oath about this. Her mother procured infants for these rituals. The testimony suggests up to 2,500 babies may have been killed over the years, though historians debate this number. Some say it's exaggerated, some say only pigeons were used for theatrical effect. But multiple witnesses testified about infant sacrifice. According to testimony, La Voisine cut the infant's throat. Blood poured into the chalice on Montespan's naked body. Père Guibourg drank that blood as satanic communion. He prayed over Montespan's naked flesh, asked Satan to grant her wish. The ritual lasted over an hour. Montespan lay there naked, blood dripping on her body, as prayers to Satan echoed in the room, and 2 years later in 1667, Madame de Montespan became the king's official mistress. Louis XIV abandoned the pregnant Louise de la Vallière, just as the ritual promised. Coincidence? Or did it work? Subscribe to Historian Diary if you haven't already. Because what happened next was 13 years of power, black magic, and increasingly desperate rituals. Montespan became the most powerful woman in France. She had 7 children with Louis XIV, Between 1667 and 1678, 6 were legitimized with the royal surname de Bourbon. They became princes and princesses. Montespan lived in Versailles. Unlimited wealth, finest clothes. She was called the real Queen of France because Louis listened to her more than his actual wife, Queen Maria Theresa. But by the 1670s, Montespan was aging. In her 30s, Louis's eye wandered. Younger women. She panicked. She'd sacrificed too much, literally, to lose this, so she returned to La Voisin. Again and again throughout the 1670s, multiple witnesses testified Montespan participated in more than a dozen black masses. Each time naked on the altar, blood, satanic prayers, alleged infant sacrifice, but La Voisin provided more than rituals. Love potions, the ingredients. Court testimony describes potions made from menstrual blood, Montespan's own menstrual blood, mixed with placenta, human bones, excrement, fat from hanged men. These weren't symbolic. Witnesses described Montespan collecting these ingredients, mixing them, putting them in the king's food and wine. For years, Louis XIV, the Sun King, the most powerful monarch in Europe, was allegedly drinking potions containing menstrual blood and human remains. And he never knew. Think about that. Every meal, every drink. For over a decade, the king consuming his mistress's bodily fluids mixed with corpse materials because she was desperate to keep him obsessed with her. Please like and share this video, because what happened next involved murder plots. By 1677, Louis XIV's attention shifted. Mademoiselle de Fontanges appeared at court. Marie-Angélique de Scouraille. She was 19, beautiful, fresh. Louis fell in love. For the first time in 13 years, Montespan was losing. The woman who'd been the real Queen of France was being replaced by a teenager. Montespan was 37. She'd given Louis 7 children, ruled Versailles, performed satanic rituals to keep him, and now a 19-year-old was taking him. Montespan went to La Voisin with a new request. Not a love potion, poison. She wanted Fontanges dead, and according to testimony, she wanted Louis XIV dead too. The plan, a poisoned petition. Fontanges would present it to the king. The paper was treated with poison. When Louis touched it, poison would absorb through his skin. Both would die. Montespan could control Louis's son, the Dauphin. Maintain power through the child. Insane? Yes, but this is what La Voisin testified under interrogation. What her daughter confirmed. Multiple witnesses described preparing this poison petition. It was ready, set for 1679, but they never executed it, because in March 1679, La Voisin was arrested. Comment below. Should Montespan have been prosecuted? Or was she manipulated by La Voisin? The arrest didn't start with Montespan. It started in 1675 with Marquise de Brinvilliers. She'd poisoned her father and 2 brothers for inheritance. Tested poisons on hospital patients. Dozens died. When captured and executed, she said, "If they knew how many people in Paris are doing what I did, they'd be horrified." Paris Police Chief Gabriel Nicolas de la Reynie investigated. He found a network. Fortune tellers, alchemists, witches, all selling poison as succession powder famed to aristocrats. Odorless, tasteless, perfect for killing husbands or rivals. Arrests led to more names. Eventually, in March 1679, they arrested La Voisin outside Notre Dame Cathedral. She'd just attended Mass. Ironic, she went to church every Sunday, believed in God, but performed satanic rituals for money. Louis XIV created a special court, Chambre Ardente, burning court. Those convicted would burn alive. Interrogations began. Shocking names emerged. Olympia Mancini, Countess of Soissons, former mistress of Louis XIV, Duchess of Bouillon, Duke of Luxembourg. The highest nobility implicated in poisoning. But the biggest name hadn't surfaced yet, until La Voisin, possibly intoxicated during interrogation to loosen her tongue, said it, "Madame de Montespan." The room went silent. Someone wrote it down. Word went immediately to the king. Louis XIV received the report. His world collapsed. His mistress, mother of 6 legitimized children, the woman he'd loved 13 years, still living at Versailles, involved in black masses, infant sacrifice, poisoning, murder plots against him. Worse, if true, Louis himself had been drugged over a decade with potions containing menstrual blood. The Sun King, absolute monarch, had been manipulated by a witch. His judgment, decisions, love, chemically induced. This couldn't become public. Louis's authority depended on absolute power. Divine right, God's chosen representative, infallible judgment. If Europe learned he'd been fooled by a witch, drunk potions made from human remains, his mistress tried murdering him, his authority would collapse. France would be mocked. Louis decided investigation continues. Voisin prosecuted, but anything involving Montespan suppressed, documents sealed, testimony classified. His ministers Colbert and Louvois controlled the scandal. The Chambre Ardente continued. 1679 to 1682, 210 sessions, 319 arrest warrants, 36 death sentences, most burned alive. On February 22, 1680, Catherine Deschamps Montvoisin burned at the stake in Place de Grève, Paris, approximately 40 years old. Thousands watched. She screamed as flames consumed her. But she didn't reveal Montespan's involvement. Maybe loyalty, maybe knowing it wouldn't save her. Maybe protecting the one client who could hurt her family after death. But Voisin's daughter talked. Marie Marguerite gave detailed testimony about her mother and Montespan. The black masses, naked altar, infants, love potions, further plots, everything, in explicit detail on record. That testimony still exists today in archives. Please share this video, because here's what happened to Montespan. Louis couldn't execute her, couldn't arrest her, couldn't publicly accuse her. That would mean admitting the scandal, so he did something crueler. He kept her at Versailles, but ended their relationship. No intimacy, no political influence, no more being the real Queen of France. Montespan went from France's most powerful woman to humiliated, isolated at court, still living in the palace, seeing the king daily, but treated with coldness, distance. Everyone at Versailles knew something happened. Rumors spread, whispers began, her reputation destroyed. Dark irony, Louis replaced Montespan with Madame de Maintenon. Who was she? The governess of Montespan's children, the woman Montespan hired to care for her illegitimate children with the king. Montespan was replaced by her own employee, by the woman who raised her children while she attended black masses. In 1691, Montespan left Versailles. Age 51, she retired to a Paris convent, Fille de Saint-Joseph. Spent 13 years there, living simply, praying, charity work, giving to the poor, repentant. Sources don't say. She never publicly spoke about Voisin or black masses or any of it. In 1704, she moved to Château d'Oiron, lived in isolation. En mai 27, 1707, Françoise Athénaïs de Rochechouart, Madame de Montespan, died. Age 66, last words unrecorded, funeral quiet, unremarkable. The woman who'd been France's most celebrated mistress was buried with barely notice. Louis XIV died 1715. Before death, he ordered all documents about Montespan and the affair of the poisons destroyed, burned, erased. He wanted no scandal record, no evidence his mistress participated in satanic rituals, no proof he'd been drugged years. Most documents were destroyed, but some survived: copies, secret files, hidden records. In the 19th and 20th centuries, historians found them. Anne Somerset published comprehensive research in 2003, The Affair of the Poisons. The full story became public, based on surviving testimony, interrogation records, trial documents. Subscribe to Historian Diary. Write in comments. Do you believe the infant sacrifice testimony, or was it exaggerated under torture? I'm a historian. My job is presenting what sources say. Here's what we know for certain. Voisin existed, ran a cult business in Paris, arrested 1679, executed 1680, documented fact, the affair of the poisons happened. Chambre Ardente held 210 sessions, 319 arrest warrants, 36 executions. Police records exist, trial documents exist. Madame de Montespan was named in investigation. Multiple witnesses testified she was La Voisin's client. Court records confirm this. La Voisin's daughter gave detailed testimony about Montespan's involvement. That testimony exists. Love potions were sold. Ingredients included menstrual blood, placenta, disturbing substances. Multiple witnesses described this. Black masses were performed. Multiple defrocked priests testified about satanic rituals for aristocrats. Père Guibourg's testimony is detailed. Naked women on altars. Blood sacrifice. Satanic prayers. These testimonies exist in court records, but what's uncertain? Did Montespan actually participate in black masses? Testimony says yes, but from people under interrogation, possibly tortured, possibly intoxicated, possibly seeking leniency by naming famous people. Were infants really sacrificed? Most controversial question. Some witnesses testified about infant sacrifice. La Voisin's daughter said her mother's garden contained 2,500 infant remains, but historians note this seems impossibly high. Searching La Voisin's property found no mass infant graves. Some witnesses said pigeons were used. Theatrical blood, not actual infant murder. Truth uncertain. Did Montespan plot murdering Louis XIV? Testimony says yes. But the plot never happened because La Voisin was arrested first. Without actual attempt, we can't know if the plan was real or just talk. Historical consensus: Montespan probably consulted La Voisin, probably bought love potions, possibly participated in some occult rituals. But extreme accusations, infant sacrifice, murder plots may have been exaggerated, either by La Voisin seeming more important than she was, or interrogators seeking sensational confessions, or Louis XIV's enemies spreading propaganda. But even conservative interpretation is shocking. The king's mistress consulted a witch, bought potions, possibly drugged the king years, and Louis XIV covered it up, protecting his reputation. That's the Versailles scandal. Behind gold mirrors, gardens, glory, there was poison. Black magic, desperation, women using occult manipulation to compete for a king's attention. When discovered, the king chose reputation over justice, silence over truth. Thank you for watching Historian Diary. This is history. Dark history, the kind showing reality behind glittering facade, revealing what people in power will do to gain and keep power. Madame de Montespan and La Voisin. Two women, one aristocrat, one witch, both desperate, both willing to cross any line. One burned at stake, other ended in convent praying forgiveness, both destroyed by ambition, by willingness to use dark magic for worldly power. The Sun King's court. Everything was supposed to be enlightenment, culture, elegance, but in shadows, naked altars, blood, satanic prayers, love potions from human remains, and the king drinking it, trusting his mistress, never knowing he might have been drugged over a decade. The enormity of their crimes proved their safeguard. Police Chief Larraini said this when Louis ordered investigation closed. The scandal was too big, too threatening to royal authority to prosecute. Criminals too important. Truth too dangerous. So they burned La Voisin, exiled some nobles, suppressed documents, pretended it never happened, but it did happen. In Louis XIV's palace, in Versailles' heart, in French culture's golden age, where black masses were performed for the king's mistress, where infants may have been sacrificed on a naked aristocrat's body, where poison was power's currency. That's Versailles. That's the affair of the poisons, the story they tried to erase. See you next time on Historian Diary.